So I've talked a lot about art books on my channel and how they've significantly helped me improve my skills. But I know how overwhelming it can be for beginners who are maybe looking into studying with art books to know which art books to get and where to start. So I thought I'll make a quick little video sharing my top 4 art books that I recommend every artist, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or professional artist, should have in their collection. These books have made the most impact to me as an artist, especially during my self-taught artist era. Most of you might already be aware of these art books, but I thought I'll share them regardless and give my own take and opinion on why I think they are very beneficial. I'm keeping it very simple and sharing just 4 art books because I know art books they're very expensive, and each art book focuses on a specific art fundamental topic. So with all that out of the way, let's jump right into the recommendations. Okay, so the first book that I have for you is Color and Light by James Gurney. Now, I'll honestly be so surprised if you haven't heard about Color and Light yet, because it's literally one of the most highly recommended books when it comes to learning color and light. I first learned about this book back in 2019 when I decided to start self-teaching and practicing the fundamentals, and almost every single artist that I looked up to recommended this book, and for a very, very good reason. The way he explains and breaks down all the theories is just so understandable, and I think it's perfect for absolute beginners all the way to professional artists who just want to brush up their knowledge on color theory. If you've watched my very old art book collection video, then you know that I recommend reading this book alongside watching Marco Bussi's YouTube channel. I very much like this book video pairing method. It works a lot for me, and I find that having a balance of both can really help you see 2 different perspectives. At first glance, this book might feel like it's for traditional artists and painters, but everything in this book can also be applied to any type of art, because its primary focus is learning how to understand the principle of color and light regardless of the medium. This book covers everything from sources of light, light and form, elements of color, painting pigments, color relationships, visual perception, which I really thought was a cool chapter. I remember after reading this book, every time I would go out, I would just be like observing the way color was interacting with everything. I think I became a bit obnoxious because I'd always be like, oh my God, the reflection of the blue light on the grass is beautiful. Anyways, that's enough of Color and Light. At this point, I'm sure there are so many people that have recommended this book, so let's just move on to the next book. So out of all the books that I'm recommending today, this next book is one that I think most of you might not have heard about, and that is Beginner's Guide to Painting Portraits by 3D Total. It's definitely a lot more recent in comparison to all the other books in my collection, but this book literally changed the way I paint portraits, and I'm not kidding. If you're interested in portraiture or drawing the human face, then I highly recommend this book. The real value of this book lies in the first few chapters by Stephen Foster. He covers everything you need to know about painting portraits and different methods, so you can choose which one works best for you. They're also very practical, and he gives a lot of assignments that you can follow along to if you want. My favorite part of this book has to be the creation cycle. When it comes to portraiture or painting portraits in general, I kind of have a process that I follow. I think that's literally the only process that is kind of consistent. And it's not even totally consistent, but you know, there's some sort of consistency. And that's basically because it's heavily inspired by the creation cycle. It's basically just the process to which he creates a portrait from start to finish, and all the things he focuses on, like values, colors, proportions, planes, edge work, brushwork, all that fun stuff. It's all in here. And at the very least, if you don't find that as helpful, it also has step-by-step processes by various artists that I think is also pretty neat. So yeah, look at that. There's also a chapter that focuses specifically on drawing the features of the face, like your eyes, nose, mouth, and details. Oh, and as a bonus, it also has like a gallery of various portrait artists that I think is so stunning. Oh, just look at that. And there's quite a variety of artists in here as well. I'd say the main issue with this book is that it focuses heavily on painting, which I guess that's the point of the book, and less on drawing and construction. He does talk about drawing the head and face, but it's really briefly mentioned, and most of it is focused on, construction lines and underdrawing for painting the portraits. But regardless of that, I think it has a very wide range of topics that are very important. If you're interested in getting this book, then I do have a discount code for you to get 20% off, if I'm correct, and I'll leave that right here on the screen. This video is not sponsored by 3D Total, but I do work with them and they gave me a little discount code for you guys. So yeah, highly recommend the book and use that discount code so you can get yourself a nice discount. Now back to recommendations that you've probably heard. The next book is Figure Drawing for All It's Worth by Andrew Loomis. Now before you say it, I know some people are not a fan of Loomis's teaching methods. I've gotten a lot of comments in the past whenever I bring up this book of how his teaching is outdated or they don't really understand it, it's too tedious. And I get it, I understand, okay? I get you. However, I started off with Loomis and I found him extremely helpful. Before I had read Beginner's Guide to Creating Portraits, my recommendation for drawing the face or portraits in general would have been Drawing the Head and Hands by Andrew Loomis. And that's because I found that book so helpful and beneficial. The Loomis method is very popular and for valid reasons. If people do not find him helpful, then his books won't be as popular as they are. So even though Loomis doesn't work for you, that is fine. You can stick to Bridgman, you can stick to, I don't know, whoever you prefer. But he worked for me, so I'm recommending him. And maybe he might work for someone else out there as well. I specifically like the way Loomis breaks down the proportions of the body. And I think his way of drawing proportions is very similar to the way I would like to draw the human body. I will say that the anatomy section of this book is kind of wishy-washy, and that's why I highly recommend pairing this book with Proko's videos, especially because Proko's teaching method also kind of follows Loomis, so they kind of like, it's kind of like the final piece to the puzzle. So yeah, when it comes to anything figure drawing, I highly recommend this book. Okay, editing okay here. Real quick, I just wanted to pop in and say that I changed my mind. I don't recommend any of these books for absolute beginners. In fact, if you are an absolute beginner, then you shouldn't even be watching this video. These books are specifically for artists who are maybe a bit more, familiar with drawing and they're ready to finally take that leap to improve their art skills and study the fundamentals. But if you're just starting off, like literally just picked up a pencil for the first time, wanted to get into drawing, or you were drawing before in the past and you're trying to get back into it, like very new to art, then please just focus on enjoying the creative process for now before like trying to dive into like finding resources to help you improve your skills. I just feel that nowadays a lot of absolute beginner artists focus so much on trying to improve their skills at the start, when in reality you should focus on enjoying the process and trying to fall in love with creating. But that's a video for another day. However, if you are an absolute beginner and you do want me to make a video in the future recommending books for like absolute beginners, very friendly, drawing friendly books, then let me know in the comments and I'll try to make that in the future. Okay, so back to the recommendations. Now, if you noticed in the intro, I was only holding 3 books, but I said I was going to recommend 4 books, and that's because I actually don't have a physical copy of the last book and I read it all on Audible, which unfortunately I'm not sponsoring this video. That would have been a very nice ad placement, but they're not sponsoring this video, okay? But the last book that I recommend is The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I absolutely love The Artist's Way and I'm very sure most of you have heard about this book. Even though this book isn't technically an art fundamental based book, the reason why I'm including it is because I highly recommend the teaching behind The Artist's Way. If you're already familiar with my channel, then you understand how much I prioritize balancing your mental health and your connection and relationship with art, as well as studying and learning and improving your skills. I think these two go hand in hand and you cannot have one without the other. If not, you're going to get burnt out like I did. After losing my creative spark, I made sure to prioritize my connection and relationship with the art that I create. And The Artist's Way was really helpful to help me heal that relationship. One thing I really like is how she talks about like your inner voice. And that was when I noticed how much I am my own problem. All the negative thoughts that I tell myself, overthinking, perfectionism. Reading this book made me really, confront those thoughts and emotions. The book also talks about healing your inner child, which I also think is just as important. Just a quick disclaimer though, I actually haven't finished this book and I never really did the assignments like every single day for like 12 weeks. I haven't done that yet. But just listening to the book is a very helpful reminder, especially when I'm spiraling in my thoughts of self-sabotage and overthinking. So if you haven't read The Artist's Way, I highly recommend you do, whether it's the audiobook or the physical copy. Even though it's a bit different from the other books that I mentioned, I think it's just as valuable. Before we go, I just want to quickly mention just buying art books isn't enough to help you improve your skills. In fact, I've noticed that a lot of people have this misconception when it comes to art books and how it can help them improve. So before you jump straight into buying your next art book, then check out this video next where I share my tips and advice on what to do before buying your next art book. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in the next video.